Hi, this is Heather Forbes, and I want to talk a little bit about chores because this is one of the tragic pieces of family life. When it is time to do chores, families can absolutely fall apart, and it's something that really can be easily avoided. This is actually written up in Beyond Consequences, Logic and Control, Volume 2. There's an entire chapter on chores, but let me give a little brief example of what happens and how to correct that. So let's take the typical scenario. It's Saturday morning, time to do chores. Mom goes into Johnny's room. Mom says, Johnny, it's time to do your chores. I need you to clean your room. Let's start here, and then I need you to go out and rake the leaves. And so mom then, she gives the instruction, she leaves, and she goes about her own chores. Well, about an hour and a half later, she realizes she hasn't heard anything from Johnny, so she goes back in his room, and what does she see? You know the scenario. There's Johnny on the floor, still playing with his Hot Wheels, hasn't cleaned a thing. And what does she do? She goes into this long, drawn out, cognitive explanation of why it's so important that Johnny get his chores done, and then she starts putting in the punishment and the consequences that say, well, if you don't clean your room, then you're not going to do anything for the rest of the weekend, and you can't play your Nintendo, and you can't be able to do X, Y, and Z. Now, at that point, we have to say, what has this child learned? Really, the only thing he has learned is that chores are a chore. Chores are something that you want to avoid. Chores are something that is drastic, it's something that divides families. That is not the lesson we want to teach. So let's rewind, let's back up and look at some of the dynamics here. First of all, it's important to understand that children are emotional beings. They are driven from an emotional state. And so if we can get to children at their emotional state, then we can find solutions. So in this case, Johnny, right? What does Johnny like to do? He likes to play. He has no desire to clean his room. It's not even on his radar. And so how can mom then go into that interaction knowing that? Because she gave him logic, she gave him reason, she gave him consequences, sequential thinking. If A doesn't happen, then B doesn't happen. Well, in the moment when Johnny's playing, that part of the brain isn't even engaged. He's having fun. He's having that emotional experience of gladness, of happiness, of joy. And so we need to move and shift him to that. And we're going to give you an example of how to do that. The second piece is that we have to understand that children get overwhelmed so very easily. You go into your child's room, what happens to you? You're instantly overwhelmed because it's a disaster, right? It looks like a tornado came through it. And so somehow we expect our children to be able to handle the extensiveness of chaos and be able to sort through, organize, and break tasks down to something manageable. Well, they're not able to. And so many children, what they will do is completely avoid. Now, if we are honest with ourselves, we avoid also. When things are overwhelming, when things are too much, we do anything but do the overwhelming task. And so children need our help to go in and break down a task, to minimize the overwhelm, and be able to support them in that. Now, the most important point I want to make here with chores is this, that we miss the opportunity to join our children, to create fun. Chores can be fun. We think of family events such as picnics, going to Disney, going to a family get-together. Well, those are all fun things, but can we look at the simple things in our family and create joy and fun and connection experiences that actually bring us together? So here's the final example of how we can do all of that with the Saturday morning chores. All right, so mom goes into Johnny's room. Second time around here. So mom goes in and she notices that Johnny's on the floor and he's playing. You know what she does? She gets on the floor. She sits down with him. She engages with him. She goes, wow, tell me more about these Hot Wheels. What's going on here? Wow, this purple truck, that's your favorite, isn't it? Does it have a name? So she starts engaging. She spends 5 to 10 minutes engaging with him where he is at. And then she's able to make connection and build relationship. Because then she can say, Johnny, at the emotional level, remember, she says, Johnny, this is going to be really hard because we have to clean the room today. And I know you don't want to stop. I know it's hard to be able to switch over from having fun to doing some cleaning because it's not your favorite, right? She gives them permission to not like the chores. She gives them permission to be upset about having to make that transition. And then she offers to do it with him. Now, this is going to be challenging because we want our kids to be responsible. We want them to be able to do things on their own. But remember, children are children. They're not little adults. Let's start here. Let's join. What if we turn on the music? Mom starts dancing. Johnny thinks mom is crazy because she's dancing and acting like an idiot. But that's fun, right? And so she starts dancing and she starts saying, well, why don't we do this corner first? And she starts breaking down the chore. And then she's able to be able to engage with him, create some fun, and most importantly, give him experiences in the home where things get accomplished, but do it in a very positive, engaging, and loving way. So check that out in Beyond Consequences, Logic and Control. Tons, and this is really a true example. This is a true story. It is possible to be able to create a relationship even amongst the most mundane things in our family.